Welcome back to the SMITE circuit playoffs here in the European region. One final match to go today, and one more team to qualify up into Group C. We'll find out who joins the Niflheim Wargs, but this time over in the opposite bracket. We'll be back over in Group A. I'm Jim Mifflin, joining me here on the desk once more as we get ready to go into the Olympus Bolts and Hex Mambo. And as mentioned, a tall mountain to climb here for the Olympus Bolts. The number 6 seed from EU coming up into this tournament versus the number 1 Hex Mambo, and one of the toughest teams that have just really been in the EU SEC in quite some time. Look back to the days of Elysium, Beltslap, take some of the best of both of those teams, squash them together, and this is what you get for Hex Mambo. As I mentioned here in Group A, Hex Mambo found themselves a 2-0 yesterday against Yodi Gang to find themselves on the upper end of the bracket. Bolts a 2-1 over the Tanuki. Now the winner will move up into Group C. Loser will go down to face off against the Yomi Tanuki to see who will be the second team from this group to qualify up.
And remind me, J-Mac, what is moving to Group C? What does that mean?
Moving to Group C means you're one of the top 4 teams remaining from this, and in that Group C, you will then fight for only 2 spots of the ones remaining of those ones there. So it's 8 teams come in, 2 separate groups to pull the top 2 from each group. Then we put them into their final group there for Group C. Top 2 of those qualify into the World's Qualifier the week before SWC to face off against the SPL teams.
And those SPL teams have been waiting hungrily for, what, 2 months now, just about since the last time we'd seen some of those guys play, watching these SEC guys, studying up, making sure that they have their best opportunity to step up and play at the world stage. And I think the teams here, namely Hex Mambo, probably one that everybody's keeping their eyes on, right? I mean, these Hex Mambo guys have been absolutely dominant. It's not exactly the same roster that we had seen last year, but still is a lot of very dominant European players.
Yeah, the Hex Mambo roster has kind of adjusted from last year, and even throughout this year have made some change-ups to their squad. Notably in the mid lane, Rapio kind of now slotting in what was, I believe, a former jungler in the SCC. He's now made his way over into the mid lane for this squad. Julio over there for the solo lane. Cozyx and Spudio, along with Dzoni, as mentioned before, from the jungler, who is kind of widely heralded as one of the best junglers in the amateur scene, if not the best jungler, as for the amateur spots there. Up against them is the Olympus Bolts, Duduin, OtherTheAnother, BeroTheBeast, Dutsher, and Lode round out the Bolts roster. And it's going to be a tough one to fight up against it. I mean, we look back to this Hex Mambo team. I even want to pan back to last time we saw them in a LAN setting, whenever we had them out for Masters. Julio went almost the entire first half of the qualification stage against all the other SCC teams, getting all the way up until they started hitting to the SPL teams. And I believe of those 8 games, had like 4 or 5 deaths the entire way through. One of the hardest guys to kill in general in the SCC, and especially amongst those solo laners.
Yeah, so keep your eyes on him. I tend to agree, though, with the earlier point. Dzoni is the focus. It feels like, even most recently, having had the opportunity to speak to Vaporish Coast, I'm like, Vaporish Coast, how's the transition to playing in the SPL? When he came into the SPL, and he said, look, man, I've been in the hyperbolic time chamber playing up against Dzoni every single day, every single week, scrims, as well as our weekly tournaments, and I don't see anyone else lining up against him. So some will say Dzoni best SCC jungler. Other players might just say Dzoni best jungler, full stop. It's hard to say as they don't get too many opportunities to interact, but when they have, Johnny's made it look real competitive.
And the wild thing about Dzoni, as we jump into the picks and pans, is that Johnny's not playing the traditional stuff that everyone else is. This guy's going to lock in the Loki. He's going to wait till right when he hits level 20, and then he's just going to W-key your entire team. He'll lock in the Yao Kwongs, the Kalis. I'm curious to see if he'll even get a chance to maybe play Maman Brigitte if she makes it available, or if she makes it through here. Will not happen. The Bolts don't want to play it, don't want to give it over to him. Maybe no surprise in that regard, because it feels like Maman almost fits Johnny's exact play style. Something similar as well as that. The Ratatoskr does make its way through Olympus Bolts. Will top pick that one. We've been seeing a lot of mage top picks recently, so seeing the Ratatoskr maybe a breath of fresh air here.
Yeah, and a lot of the best mages have already been banned out, the Opwash and the Raijin off the table, so we have seen Europe really favor that Poseidon, generally Poseidon over towards that solo lane, utilizing Kraken just to confirm totems or cooldown buffs and keep that pressure up. For the most part, when you're playing a mage solo, if you can slot Typhons into your build or Pythags into your build, you're going to be just fine. That level of sustain and poke potential is what really has pushed those mage solos to the forefront of the meta, and Poseidon can count himself amongst those. Unique strength of Poseidon being his movement speed from his passive, allowing him to get involved in those mid fights, those mid 3v3s, mid camps, rotating over towards the Pyromancer once it spawns up. So I'll be keeping my eyes on him. Certainly something I think we can come to expect from Hex Mambo is their willingness to take those team fights very early on. That's not to say, though, that the Olympus Bolts haven't got themselves a scary composition either. Rat, Heim, Yemoja, that's the dual lane in the jungle likely. Could go solo for the Rat, but for the most part we see him in the jungle. high pressure output, good sustain, global presence, incredible safety from your ADC. I don't hate this draft from the Bolts at all.
Well, talking about Loki, normally it's in the hands of Dzoni through the jungle.
Is it Rat
but
solo now?
Looks like we might be seeing either a Loki or a Rat solo. We have seen Loki solo, but that was yesterday we saw one of those matchups, so could be seeing that one again. Or as mentioned, the Ratatoskr could be making its way that direction. Instead for Dzoni, Awilix going to be the final lock-in. And you've got a couple of great players on your team to be able to help you out. You got a Sobek in hand immediately, tail whip, pluck, either of those ones, try and grab a quick target. Poseidon with that Kraken as well. Feels like this is a good roster to kind of round out with this Awilix.
Even Tidal Surge, right? If you've got the craziest timing on the planet, you can use Gravity Surge off that, and I think he does as well. So a high-pressure god for Dzoni, one that can set the pace very early on. It's something we've seen from adapting recently. He's been going towards that Awilix pretty consistently. High damage output, incredibly scary. Late game hyper carry too. I think that's a new thing here in year 10. Previously, Awilix was, levels 1 through 10, you feel great. After that, not so much. Now a Scorching Blink, Blink behind, knock up, true damage is rolling. This god can be a massive threat.
The number 6 Bolts and the number 1 Mambo. We'll see who comes out on top in game number 1. Casters, take it away.
You got David taking on Goliath. You got Dimes. You got Inbound. And it's always a pleasure when we get to talk about Dzoni Inbound, although this time not on the signature Loki, actually getting snatched away from the European jungler.
Yeah, and we saw Dzoni on this Awilix yesterday, and it looked fantastic. And as Myth said, this is a god that's not just reliant on that early game anymore. It can play into the late game. But Duduin, we also saw him on this Loki, and he also plays this really well in solo. He plays like a different style, kind of looks to farm out and just kind of pull relics to allow his jungler to kind of gank that side of the map. So I expect that's kind of how solo is going to go. One looks to pull relics, and then they ask their jungler to kind of come over and clean up.
We saw yesterday, the Olympus Bolts, I mean, J-Mac talked about it plenty on the desk, but 6th seed coming in against the number 1 Hex Mambo here. The Olympus Bolts were not playing like a 6th-seeded team. I mean, we watched the Tartarus Titans play worse than them yesterday as a higher seed. The Olympus Bolts have brought macro play, mechanical play, and micro play to the table. What is it, if you're looking at like one or two things specifically, just high level, what are the Olympus Bolts focusing on taking on the Hex Mambo?
I think you just got to make sure you don't let Dzoni get off to this massive lead. A lot of the times we see these junglers kind of run the game, it's that they get that early first blood, minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then they can kind of just snowball. So just making sure Johnny's not getting too far ahead. Don't let solo lane, dual lane dominate anywhere. If you play this early portion a little bit slower, or you match those rotations and take those fights, knowing you want to take those fights, I think the Bolts have got a really good chance here. I like their comp.
This is a pretty aggressive left-hand side of the map here for the Hex Mambo. I mean, between the plucks from Cozyx, the lockdown from Spudio, and Dzoni being pretty much everywhere at all times. And if that's not enough for you, downtown Rapio comes in with an ultimate that seems to go forever to secure the kills. Yeah,
and Rapio's a jungler turned mid laner, but this Thoth, when he pilots it, it looks like he's been playing this character in this role for a long time. Positions very well. He's got nice accuracy with all of his abilities. I mean, already right there, hitting 2 of them, already poking Bero down, another 150, 200 health. So a lot of worry on the Bolts backliners. I think the Scylla, the Heim are going to be very important. Dzoni can kind of get onto them, pull relics, kill them, or even get them to half so Rapio can clean them up. I think that's kind of going to dictate this middle portion of the game.
A couple of early backs from both these junglers aren't going to be able to finish off their early penetration items. But, you know, a matchup we don't get to talk about too often, Poseidon and Loki in the duo lane. That's not a solo lane mano-a-mano that we get to chat about too often. Walk me through what that laning phase is going to look like, and then when rotations are coming out, how they're going to affect the rest of the map.
The Loki solo is kind of like the weirder part of that equation. Poseidon, not too weird, kind of just wants to farm up. As Myth said, he's just trying to get as much of that farm as possible. Actually, as we're talking about that, a play maybe in duo or in solo.
Dzoni looking to blink in, does successfully do so. Duduin invisible for the moment. Julio and Dzoni aren't quite giving up, but immediately Johnny's jumping into OtherTheAnother. A little bit of shred with that circle there. And a nice clone there from the Loki to dissuade any more aggression here from the combo of Julio and Dzoni, who aren't giving up on the right-hand side of the map, able to grab a blue buff from the enemies.
And that shows kind of the weakness of this Loki. Pre-5, almost irrelevant in this 2v2. He gets jumped on, Dzoni knocks him up in the invis. He does get out from the nice stun from OtherTheAnother, and that should help, you know, this Loki get through this early portion of the game. This Rat, a lot of pressure, a lot of kill potential, but this Loki in the early portion is just trying to farm. And then that middle portion, that's where it's going to kind of pop up, change up kind of how he's going to want to play. Instead of just farming and getting as much of that gold outside of tower as possible, he will look for 1v1s, and he's going to look for that Jotun's rush. And as soon as that Jotun's is done, as soon as he's 5, there is a lot of threat with this Loki. There's good one-shot potential, and there's also easy relic pulling.
Just one look here from both these junglers on the right-hand side, and early on gank there out of Dzoni on this Awilix, who's likely going to back and try to finish up that Jotun's Wrath quickly here. Got an acorn online from OtherTheAnother. And around the rest of the map, I mean, it's not like there's one particular character that's jumping out at me as early game, we've got to get it going. It's not, there's no Thanatoses online, nothing like that. Both these squads certainly looking for the mid game here. And BeroTheBeast, I want to talk about this Scylla. We've seen it quite a bit here in this tournament so far, but it really hasn't made a significant impact. We'll get back to that in one moment here. OtherTheAnother, I mean, Spudio and Cozyx locked in their tower, likely nothing to break out here as Johnny's making the rotation as well. Looking for OtherTheAnother. Might get a blink down, though, from that engagement on the right-hand lane.
Block.
There's a blink and a pull in immediately. Cozyx, finger on the trigger with that pluck. OtherTheAnother has to go into that world tree. Cozyx slammed down on by the rat, but it's the rat that's going to pay for it. First blood going the way of Hex Mambo. A botched gank spells the end of the rat.
And OtherTheAnother looking for that play onto Cozyx, but Cozyx is there. He's ready. He wants him to blink in. He also has that med when he lands from the Heimdallr ult, so he has a little bit more sustain. Mana was an issue for him or Dzoni, which it was for Dzoni. The mana from meditation also helps out in that 3v3. And overall, just a really clean play already by Mambo. And if you look at this duo side of the map, the early game should be all Mambo. Talking Sobek, Hachiman. There's really not much on this Heim. There's not much on this Yemoja. They're trying to farm up a little bit, so no surprise so far that the duo lane is going slightly in favor of Mambo.
And I've been doing SEC casts for a while, inbound. I've been watching the Hex Mambo for a while. In fact, the world has been watching Hex Mambo back when some of these players were in the SPL, And when you say Hex Mambo's got this early game lockdown, the biggest problem that I've watched from watching hours and hours of Hex Mambo is that they win the late game too, like 9 times out of 10. So when you give the early game to Hex Mambo, and the Hex Mambo are going to take over the late game as well, you have very little wiggle room as the Olympus Bolts to fight back.
Yeah, I mean, that's the scary part about playing against the Mambo. They don't need these great team fighting characters. They can play through the early game and then just transition into nice team play, because their macro is phenomenal. As you said, it's not even like we draft for the late game. It's we have early game characters, we have late game characters, and we'll just out-mechanical you early game, and late game we'll out-macro you, and it's very hard to play against. I mean, there is very few mistakes that they make, and you have to exploit those mistakes if you want a chance of winning.
I love watching teams who can macro to the best extent. I mean, 6 minutes in the game, we've got 1 kill, first blood on the board, 500 gold, sure, but a 2K gold lead here for the Hex Mambo. It's not from kills, it's not from towers, it's from waves and jungle farming, and that just blows my mind.
Yeah, it is something that they do very well. And on top of that, like you said, this is only 1 kill. Yes, it's 500 gold. Yes, maybe you're stopping one person from farming for a little bit, but the lead really isn't there. The lead is in duo. The lead is in mid a little bit, and Julio has a slight lead in solo. So it's just everywhere on the map is just a slight lead for Mambo, but it's all just stacking together, and it's just making it big lead across the map.
Hex Mambo putting their stamp on the shield buff over and over, pretty much own this thing by now, as OtherTheAnother making their way back into the middle lane. Kind of curious, typically when you see a jungler with a global ultimate, whether it's a Thanatos, a Thor, a Ratatoskr, typically those junglers want to use it on cooldown. You get a little bit of cooldown online, you spam it as much as possible to be able to move around the map, but so far quiet from the Olympus Bolts jungler.
Yeah, that's kind of like a weird thing with Rat, where the other junglers, Thana, Thor, as you said, they have that Jotun's rush they can go. Rat can't really do that. He needs to get this Acorn online first, and there's not that 20% cooldown he's getting from that Jotun's, but don't get it twisted. The character can still gank, can still fight early very well.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that cooldown is not necessarily there for those permaganks, like some other of those global assassins. But as soon as he gets that Jotun's online, I would expect that, as you said, kind of ganking off cooldown. And his strength is still here. It's a little bit, they're just on the back foot at this point, and it's hard to make plays when you look at both sides of the map. Loki's behind. This Poseidon already has tier 2 breastplate. You look over in duo lane is behind, and you're playing against a Sobek Hachiman, so not really much for OtherTheAnother to really do right now. It's mostly just farming up and hope in maybe a minute, minute and a half, they can kind of take a fight somewhere.
Hex Mambo looking at this right side blue buff. You know, something else that might have OtherTheAnother gritting their teeth is check out the map littered with red dots, wards from the Hex Mambo, completely negating a surprise gank from the Gold Fury pit. I mean, it looks like chickenpox on the map. 4 wards on the right-hand side. You got 3 on the left-hand side. The Hex Mambo throwing gold the way of vision.
Yeah, and with that vision, I want to see them transition this to this Gold Fury. Not necessarily now, but in that next minute, before OtherTheAnother can get that Yones online, before they actually have that true fight potential, because Sobek is very good at tanking objectives because he's so tanky, and he's also got a little bit of sustain. And then you have the good secure. You have good damage onto it with this Awilix, with this Hachiman. And we've talked about Awilix. She used to be this really good early game character. Her ult has gotten so many buffs through the years that she actually has a lot of just one-on-one damage with objectives in that ult. So this is something where they can just burn that ult, walk to the objective, and just get a lot of damage onto it.
That's a great point. The best Awilixes that we're going to watch aren't just going to use that ultimate to yank someone out of the air. Use it for those passive stats, the attack speed. You can really shred down some objectives. So far, not in position, though, is Dzoni to be looking at that Gold Fury. No one really hovering around that pit. In fact, only 1 ward from the Olympus Bolts around that major objective. Kind of telling me that neither one of these squads are really gung-ho on that left side of the map going for it. Happy to just farm up, play this game slow. The Hex Mambo have kept that lead steady, maybe grown it 400 or 500 extra gold from some of these invades. But the Olympus Bolts not letting this one slip out of their hands at the very least in this early game. Got a couple Book of Thoths online for the mid laners, some stacking items, just finishing off now for the Hunters as well. We're really starting to see some of these items stack up and pay dividends for the gods.
I guess something we could talk about now is the support relics, because I think this is that point in the game where supports aren't really tanky enough to actually just sit there and tank a bunch of damage. So comparing Yemoja, going for that beads, Sobek pluck, they have the Awilix knockup, which Awilix kind of that counter pick into Yemoja, where if Yemoja ever uses her 3 for her or an ally, Awilix can ult off of it and actually dash in left.
Dutsher already falling to half HP. Dzoni with the follow-up immediately onto the Yemoja. There's the knockup, but the Riptide also carries Dzoni through. So no gravity surge, doesn't matter though. Lode is going to pay the price for the support player. If you want someone to go down, you love Dutsher to do so. But OtherTheAnother
good trade.
Jumps right off of Yggdrasil though. A trade out. Spudio goes down. ADC for ADC. The Olympus Bolts strike back.
And a good trade there by OtherTheAnother looking for that play. And actually a pluck in. Dzoni gets the ult off. Knocked up OtherTheAnother. Does he have the dash to get out? He gets the stun.
What a chain CC there from Cozyx and Dzoni. It's going to be a matter of who can leap first. What a moonstrike over the wall. Dutsher locking down the enemy jungler and allowing OtherTheAnother to escape with just a scrap of HP left. Great CC there from the Hex Mambo, but even better CC from the support for the Bolts.
And that was a close one right there. That is a purple buff. That is 1 kill. That would have been the 2nd kill for Hex Mambo and giving them a nice little extra kind of on top of that first kill onto Lode. But fortunately for OtherTheAnother, it gets that stun. Also another really nice CC by Dutsher to get him out. Overall, yeah, 1 for 1, but when you get that trade, especially when you see like the level lead in duo, level 10 for Lode, also opting for that Griffin win, which we don't see a ton, something we can talk about where it's more of an early game spike, but it really does fall off rather quickly. And then Spudio on the opposite side is level 12. So that's an overall pretty decent trade for the Bolts.
You bring it up, and I actually do want to talk about it. The Griffin Wing, it rarely comes out. Is there something about Heimdallr specifically that's making this pickup a little bit more attractive, or is it just Lode trying something new?
Maybe something where Heimdallr has slightly slower auto attack, so getting a little bit more attack speed on earlier. Really cheap item, especially when he's behind. Maybe he's opting for that. A lot of the times it does just kind of delay your build. You compare the 3rd item they're going to be getting. You're going to have a Dom on Spudio, and on the opposite side, maybe Xe here from Lode, so he's going to just put himself an item behind. But Gold Fury getting burned, already half health.
Dzoni's got the ultimate if necessary, but it doesn't really seem to be, as Hex Mambo doesn't expend a single major ability active, nothing on that objective. Walk up, hit the Gold Fury a few times, take it down, and that is some more gold towards the Hex Mambo coffers. The Olympus Bolts, you got to have a finger on the pulse of the game. It's around 13 minutes. You've got a big lead in duo. I mean, it seems to me, at the very least, that you knew Gold Fury was going to be started up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think Bolts are just kind of, let's give it up. Let's keep playing this a little bit slower. Maybe we can look on the opposite side. Lode actually playing up here, and Dzoni's over here. He does sense it.
Bifrost used successfully. Good heads-up awareness there from Lode, as Pyromancer is going to be the point of contention on the right-hand side of the map for the Olympus Bolts, leading the charge this round. Cozyx caught between two, able to plug BeroTheBeast, who's currently in no danger. Nice crush there, going to put a little bit of damage on the Poseidon. Good night, Bero, as Rapio's final judgment finds the Scylla wanting. Duduin is in the fray as well. Dzoni finds one. Rapio is traded out at the very least, but OtherTheAnother just walked down. Cozyx saying thank you very much. Grab one for the Crocodile, and why not grab a Pyromancer for fun?
And a little aggressive on that side of the map. Dutsher not really even there to take that fight. Looks like the Bolts are confident taking that 3v3, 3v4. Confident they should not have been. They get traded out 3 for 1. And now we have a Gold Fury, we've got Pyro, we've got Dzoni invading red buff, invading speed buff. We're talking 3k gold about a minute ago. We're already up to 5k, almost 6k just in the past minute.
It's getting a little bit out of hand here. And okay, let's look big picture here, both these squads. Scaling-wise, what's the mid-game looking? I mean, we're approaching it. We're getting into it. The Olympus Bolts fighting into a Hex Mambo team now who has the lead. What members are the Olympus Bolts relying on in order to keep them in this game and scaled more towards the late?
At this point, it's the Assassins you got to look towards. I think it's this Loki, this Rat. They have that kill potential. They have that combo potential, as you saw in that fight, actually getting the pickup onto Rapio, getting that little trade. And I think it's their base damage, their CC allows them actually maybe get some trading potential out here. And this is what you expect in solo lane. It's going to be just alt trading a lot. Sometimes it'll be the Loki getting aggressive, looking for Poseidon. But if Poseidon loses a relic, loses beads, loses Aegis, there's good kill potential that both the Loki and the Rat have over there. So that's something I want to keep my eye on. And I think that's the important part for this next 2-3 minutes, is this solo lane.
Julio and Dzoni on the right-hand side here. Remember, Duduin just used that ultimate to get away from the Kraken. Aegis popped there by the solo laner for the Bolts, and it's going to be a couple of auto attacks and a Whirlpool to confirm the Loki. OtherTheAnother would love to trade this one back, but is getting ripped apart. Dzoni picks up a double kill, and that's just the lead paying dividends there. I mean, a 3-level lead. OtherTheAnother's chances were slim, to say the least.
Yeah, especially level 13 only. Dzoni level 16.
Oh, boy.
Looking for a play on to Bero here, too.
Could be another kill. Cozyx taking up the tower, lurking under the waters. Julio with the Kraken back online from when he traded off from Duduin, but is going to grab an Aegis for his trouble. That's a nice trade. That's a long cooldown active for a Kraken that's going to be up sooner rather than later with a little bit of cooldown online for the Poseidon.
And exactly that. We're sitting Poseidon 40% cooldown with that blue augmented blue buff. I mean, that is a pretty free trade. We're talking 50 seconds on Kraken and about 3 minutes on that Scylla Aegis.
Could be a tough look here for Dutsher. Spudio making the rotation as well, hopping on that horsey to get into the fray. OtherTheAnother is in as well. Dzoni locked down by the River's Rebuke, able to jump successfully away. Duduin's made the rotation here from the solo lane, able to take out the superstar jungler. Spudio turns it right back around onto the Loki. Teleport away, going to be successful here for Lode. The duo lane for the Olympus Bolts looking pretty beaten up here as Cozyx and Rapio want to keep things rolling. Rapio with a couple shots from downtown, not able to secure another kill, but a 1-for-1 trade. Duduin for Dzoni. Olympus Bolts feeling fine about that one.
Yeah, I think it's a good trade, but unfortunately on top of that 1-for-1, you're also going to be losing this Oni Fury. Not the biggest loss, because it is just going to be pushing the wave, something you're going to be able to farm up. But this is just more gold in Mambo's pocket. And looking at dual lane right now, 3-level lead for Spudio, 3-level lead for Cozyx. This Yemoja, this Heim, they have a lot of time. They need to get some farm, because these are characters that need to be in good spots. And actually 4-level lead now for Spudio. You're going to need a lot of farm, a lot of slowing this game down, especially over there, because these 5v5s are not going to be close.
Well, if you're the Olympus Bolts, at the very least, you're happy that you haven't lost a single tower yet. So even though a couple of Gold Furies and a Pyromancer have gone the way of Hex Mambo, all of the structures for the Olympus Bolts still standing. You can't forget, kills and objectives are important, but at the end of the day, you gotta hunt down towers, phoenixes, and eventually that Titan at the end of the game. The Olympus Bolts with 6 towers still standing. But I mean, really, with the path this game has taken, it's pretty much a linear 1-to-1 that the Hex Mambo are going to be taking out some of them towers in quick succession here.
Also seeing Cozyx's build and level at this point, level 14 with that Finnish Siebes, Finnish Spirit's Robe.
Yeah.
He's almost going to have this starter already, and we're talking level 12, just got a second relic on the Yemoja.
Might be a tough spot here for the Ratatoskr, who can't make it up into the World Tree. Spudio with the finishing touches on the jungler, and that's going to kick the door wide open here for the Hex Mambo to take a look at this Fire Giant. Might be a little bit more than a look, as the Olympus Bolts are not even close to in position to try to engage onto the Fire Giant. Hex Mambo successfully taken out. The Fire Giant Spudio wants a little bit more. Duduin teleporting away successfully, burning the ultimate to do so. Spudio feeling himself there, hopping on that mounted archery to chase down the solo lane Loki. Lodde, I mean, what else can you do but split push, right? Try to get a little bit of farm rather, take out one of the towers and try to respond in some fashion to that Fire Giant.
And exactly that. When he's 16 and Spudio on the opposite side is level 19, you need to split off, you need to get farm. Spudio's very close to 20 at this point, and they're actually going to look to catch him out.
Olympus Bolts looking for a Hail Mary here. Spudio falling low. Nice shred there. Poseidon trying to create a little bit of space. Isn't going to be able to do so, though. Now locked in those rivers, thrown out by Yemoja. I'm a monster on the mark, but the Aegis used successfully. Lodde throws one out as well, able to Bifrost away there. Julio still in a tough spot here, but the rest of the Hex Mambo able to back up the solo laner. Not long enough to keep him alive, but the very least enough to trade out Duduin. Dutsher now the target between Rapio and Cozyx. Nice damage there from the mid laner. A dash in, a stun on the mark. Crush creating a little bit of room for the support to walk away. Cozyx makes sure to finish off the Yemoja, though. There's a dash away from BeroTheBeast right under Phoenix. Still playing frontliner here as Johnny's made the rotation. Bero's in a tough spot here. Rapio in the backline being dove by OtherTheAnother successfully, and blood is being shed on both sides here around the tier 2 for the Olympus Bolts.
Another going to be cleaned up by Dzoni also. The delay, or the Dia side for Hex Mambo, not looking for that Phoenixy just yet, going to be backing up, going for this Pyromancer instead. But clean fights all around by Mambo. They don't even send everybody over there to get that finished fight. That is not even a clean fight by them, and they still end up taking down all 5.
Pyromancer is going to be the next look here for the Hex Mambo. They're going to finish that one off. Grab themselves a bomb. Might help out with the next Fury that comes up, the next Fire Giant. Heck, you might even throw it under a tower if you're feeling frisky. Speaking of towers, the Olympus Bolts still have 3 of them bad boys standing, and of course 3 Phoenixes as well. But I mean, Hex Mambo kills in favors 14-6. Gold, I mean, we're at that 11,000 mark, and 10,000 is where you're starting to ring some alarm bells and starting to feel like it's more on the Hex Mambo to throw the game rather than the Olympus Bolts to climb their way back into it. So 11K is just a little bit worse than that.
And with this 11,000 gold, they have 5 finished starters once Dzoni gets his back off versus 0 on the Olympus Bolt side. And this is what's going to be happening. Cozyx is in no threat whatsoever. He can pluck as much as he wants, and very rarely will he get punished with those 4 finished tank items sitting at 30% cooldown, probably 40% if he's got that blue augmented green buff. So there's a lot of strength on the side of the Mambo and very little strength on the side of the Bolts.
The Hex Mambo haven't really been grouping. I mean, even the Fire Giant we saw was a little bit split up. You know, you have 3 on the FG. You got 2 as OtherTheAnother deleted. Goodbye. Dzoni says you're not allowed to be alive anymore. Dutsher and Duduin are combining, but Dzoni is not afraid of this fight at all. It's going to kite a little bit. Dzoni able to blink away successfully. Duduin trying to lock down with the ultimate there. Dzoni goes right back in, baiting for the rest of the team, because look, on the left-hand side, the Hex Mambo are running it down. Tier 1 and Tier 2 tower gone. The rest of the Olympus Bolts have to back, and Dzoni, I mean, just being a distraction right now, just trying to create space for the rest of the squad to take down a left-hand Phoenix, successfully doing so, by the way, in the Olympus Bolts. Nice deception playing right into the hands of Dzoni.
Dzoni just distracted 4. He had 3 people not rotating, not backing, and he killed one of them. That entire time, it's just a free fight for the Mambo.
And the crazy thing, Inbound, it was 4 people on Dzoni, and we all knew that Dzoni could have taken that fight. As Duduin is falling to half HP here, Lodde is going to be gone for just a second here. OtherTheAnother looking for a big smackdown. Going to be on Rapio in the backline, able to finish that one off. But Dzoni doing Dzoni things, taking out the support for the Olympus Bolts. The rest of the Bolts are looking a little worse for wear here as the Hex Mambo are wailing away at the duo lane. Not the duo lane, rather the mid laner and the ADC. For the Order squad here, Julio chasing out OtherTheAnother. A little bit slower than the Rat, though. Meanwhile, mid lane Tier 2 tower has fallen, and the Olympus Bolts quickly stripped of all of their structures except for 2 of their Phoenixes. OtherTheAnother blink away. Dzoni, leap in, feather step, thank you very much. Just going to be a matter of who gets that final shot, but no! Duduin ripping through the jungler. A little bit too big for your britches there, Johnny.
And Mambo maybe playing this a little bit too free, not really going for any of the objectives, taking these fights really wonky. They had no Fire Giant at that point anymore, so they're just taking that free 5v5. They get the 1-for-1 trade, but now Johnny's down, and this Fire Giant is spawning. A little bit of an opportunity here for the Bolts to look for something. They are still really weak, so there is that opportunity where they just farm out. They don't really look to push the game at this point. But if you want to make that bold play, now's the time.
Duduin yoinked back in. Not tanky with that full damage build coming out. Spudio was getting chunked down here by OtherTheAnother, diving 3 successfully. And not paying for it thus far. Final Judgment coming out of the Thoth there, but Dutsher only dropping to half HP, pulled right back in. Kraken just a little bit off the mark there. Could have been a confirmed kill onto Dutsher, but the CC wasn't quite there for the Hex Mambo. But you know what that fight did inbound? Allowed Johnny to spawn back on the map.
Yeah, and with no kills, we're now sitting at a 5v5 again. And Left Phoenix is still getting pushed down. Now the Bolts are going to have an answer here where it's either answer Fire Giant, try to defend this, or push out left, try to get some farm. And with how close you are to your level 20s, how close you are to your starters, this is just give. Just let them have this, as you don't need to lose the game here. This is not an EFG. We're not losing game if we lose this Fire Giant. Let's try to get 20 on Bero, try to get 20 on Lode. We have our starter item on Yemoja, so we have these strength points, but we're just not strong enough yet. Let's just give it a little bit more.
Pyro gone. Bomb being put in the hands of Julio, looks like. So you got 2 Pyromancer bombs in the hands of the Hex Mambo. Fire Giant dropping to half HP and is going to drop to 0 HP right now, as the Hex Mambo have that buff wrapped around their waists of all 5 members. Left lane Phoenix down. Middle lane Phoenix and right Phoenix, the only objectives remaining here for the Olympus Bolts to protect their Titan. As the Hex Mambo not even playing pretend here, running it straight down the middle lane. Got a wave on their flank as well. Strip away some of those backdoor protections from the Phoenix. Johnny playing the jungler here, ever hunting for a behind-the-scenes kill. Able to knock up Dutsher, pulling back in. Dutsher with the beads there to escape certain death from the Hex Mambo, who have now grouped up back as 5. Johnny splitting it once again, heading to the right-hand side. You just need a few auto attacks, especially enhanced as they are with that Thoth wall. It's not going to take very much to knock down the bird.
And eyes on Rapio here. Does he have enough poke here to actually threaten the back line, threaten the front line? And he actually has that all-in potential once Final Judgment is back up. But Thoth is who I'm keeping my eyes on here.
Same thing goes for the Olympus Bolts in their mid lane, BeroTheBeast on this Scylla, as it is with any Scylla and any game that we watch. One big I'm a monster can completely rewrite the story here for the Olympus Bolts.
He's up.
You got Ratatoskr in the air. You got Ratatoskr looking for a big-time ultimate. It's going to find 3 in the back line. Olympus Bolts falling low, though. In the meantime, the Hex Mambo pick 1 up. It's going to be OtherTheAnother Duduin with a turnaround. Big-time crush there from BeroTheBeast. Lode finds 1 for himself as well. Johnny low. Duduin ultimate down. No chase on the Awilix, who has to run away with about 150 health in hand. And that's the kind of defense the Olympus Bolts needed to put together to drive the Hex Mambo back. You got a left-hand Phoenix back online and a little bit of hope in the eyes of the Olympus Bolts.
And that is the fight they were looking for. They combo perfectly, bait the Yemoja just a little bit, and then they have these big AoE abilities. The Loki 2, they have the Rat, they have the Scylla, they have this big damage opportunity, and that is the possibilities this Bolts team has. And with that win right there, we're talking about a nearly even game. Yes, we're still sitting about 5 items for the Bolts, but we've now got our starters finished. We've got level 20. This 13K gold lead will matter for a little bit longer, but by the time Fire Giant is back up, 30 minutes, EFG, this is an entirely even game.
With the Hex Mambo respawning, it's power plays over, 5-on-5 on the map. Inbound, you're the Olympus Bolts here. What are you doing, right? Are you going for a Fury? Are you waiting for the Mambo to start something up? Are you counter-punching? What's the play here if you're the Order Squad?
I think you're still playing it a little bit slower, trying to just wait for them to pull Fire Giant and then take the fight on it. Because the combo potential we saw wasn't them really engaging. It was them counter-engaging off the Yemoja getting baited out a little bit. So try to do that again. You have good sustain to kind of match this Thoth. You have that Yemoja. The only thing is, there's still one-shot potential here. Thoth ult, Johnny with a nice blink once his blink is back up. There is very much one-shot potential. So make sure Bero, make sure Lode both play a little bit safer here. But other than that, Duduin should be looking for some poke. We're seeing a Loki, this Bluestone, Crusher, Heartseeker. This 2 will be doing a lot of damage, and it'll be nearly impossible to trade into him.
Mid lane tower to fall here from the likes of the Olympus Bolts, taking out the Hex Mambo structure. You know, with Dzoni on the map, it's tough to call out the rest of the Hex Mambo, but Spudio putting in the work, topping the damage charts here, just edging out Rapio there. But, I mean, the auto attacks have clearly been connecting with 22k damage coming out of this ADC. Not quite the same story on the other side out of Lode. But Spudio's been dishing out the damage. Dzoni with the finishing touches. Rapio from downtown as well. Even though Johnny's a little bit flashier in the slash line with 8, 2, and 5, the entirety of Hex Mambo has been getting it done in these team fights.
And actually, this entire time, OtherTheAnother going mid.
Oh, and it might go down. Between Duduin and OtherTheAnother, plenty of penetration online. Phoenix going to fall at the very least. OtherTheAnother pretty tanky here, though, unable to get up in the sky. That's a 1-for-0 trade, 1-for-1 if you want to count the Phoenix as a member of Hex Mambo. Cozyx blowing the ultimate as well. Spudio using that mounted archery to try to close the gap there. That's a middle lane Phoenix down, snuck away there by the Olympus Bolts. Maybe not worth it here if Duduin gets caught out between Dzoni and the Loki. So far, nothing going here for both these assassins. And on the right-hand side, don't forget, Pyromancer online, Fire Giant about to spawn back on the map as well. Positioning is going to be crucial for both these teams.
And that is perfect timing there. By the time Fire Giant is spawning, OtherTheAnother is going to be up and he's going to be there. And Dzoni used Blink. So now part of the engage that the Mambo have is not there. Part of that one-shot potential is not there. I do think in this next fight, though, eyes on Spudio. It was nice of you to mention him because this is a crit Hachiman, full build. He's got a lot of near one-shot potential, and it's every half second he's going to be spraying out these autos. And you look on the other side, we were talking about earlier, Griffin Wing. Actually, Fire Giant. Let's talk about that.
You got a Pyro Bomb here online for the Hex Mambo. And the Olympus Bolts don't even look at the thing as Fire Giant goes down once again to the Hex Mambo. And look at that timer inbound, just ticking over to 30 minutes.
And that's the problem. It's not losing FG, it's losing this EFG, because who can match Dzoni in a 1v1 with this EFG and if his blink is available? And the answer is nobody. He can one-shot them, he has outplay potential with that Awilix 2. He's also got that ultimate to pretty much easily backdoor. He doesn't even need minions. He can just walk back there with his EFG, with his ult, and he has 2, 3, 4 autos, and it's going to be dead.
Duduin playing up here. Hasn't built a single defense item on this Loki. I mean, we haven't really seen Duduin completely 100-0 someone, but don't get it twisted. This Loki has the potential. It's literally what the character was made to do. And with full penetration, full attack Loki here, Duduin can absolutely blow up a character. It's going to be a Beads burn or an Aegis burn, though, from the rest of the Olympus Bolts in order to really fire off this Loki. The Primal Fury is going to be looked at here from the Hex Mambo. And the Olympus Bolts, you said it was a counter engagement that the Olympus Bolts were really looking for. It seems like it's going to be under a Phoenix rather than a neutral objective.
Yeah, and it's a little bit harder under a Phoenix because they don't have to 5v5 here. This is something where the Mambo can split. So the same thing that happened last time, it's not something that will necessarily be happening again. And the Bolts, instead of just being 5 strong under their Phoenix, Loki and Rat are pushing out these waves and they're playing aggressive.
Only 3 members here from the Olympus Bolts to defend, as the rest of the Hex Mambo are slowly making their way up. You got Julio and Dzoni splitting. It's 3-2 with 2 in the mid lane. Now Dzoni joining the rest of the squadron over here on the left-hand side. It's going to be a weakened bird on this duo lane side. Don't forget, it's going to go down quicker than the average bear there. Hex Mambo still splitting it up 3-2. The Olympus Bolts have now backed and are here in force in their entirety. A 5v5 might decide the fate of this game number 1 here, as the 6-seeded Bolts are looking to put on some kind of defensive clinic against the Hex Mambo.
And look at this poke by the Loki already. That too is on a 10-second cooldown, and he's also got a bunch of proc items, so eyes on him here.
Mid Phoenix. Falling low. That's just some auto attacks from the Poseidon, by the way, as OtherTheAnother moves in a position to defend the middle Firebird. It's just 3-2 split. Waves are coming up. It's going to take a second for those Chaos minion waves to join the rest of the Hex Mambo here. Dutsher, Duduin, Bero, and Lode on this left-hand side, trying to kick things off is Rapio, and gets an immediate Yemoja ult in response. Cozyx so low, I'm a monster. Little bit late there out of Bero. OtherTheAnother finds 1, though, and is immediately turned around.
2.
That could be enough. Bero with an excellent Sikkim to take out Julio. Meanwhile, Rapio Aegis down. OtherTheAnother's in a tough spot here. Dzoni
Rapio.
full HP. That's never what you want to see, as Lode is caught between a rock and a tough place, but another phenomenal Sikkim from the Scylla locks down 2, able to drive away the Hex Mambo. Olympus Bolts, they lose 2 in the scrum, but find 2 back, and the left lane bird doesn't even fall.
And now we have 3v3 here. Still have EFG on 3 for Mambo. Now we'll be healing up passively with this FG. So there is still a little bit of threat here. Bolts aren't completely out of it. Seems like they're actually going to be out of it. Seems like the Mambo are going to be giving up the fire right here. Going to be waiting for this next fire giant. Done in about 30 seconds, so not really a ton of opportunity there. But now that's 2 times the Mambo have tried to siege, and they've not been doing it.
You just read my mind. I was literally about to ask. Twice the Hex Mambo have tried to siege, and twice they've been turned away. What needs to change for the Mambo to successfully pierce the base?
I think their split's got to be different. I think at this point, splitting Dzoni, splitting Julio in their own lane and having the other 3 on the opposite side, it's not working out. There's too much threat with this Yemoja. You don't have that shell to kind of get through the Yemoja ults that we've been seeing, because Dutsher's been positioning very well. He's been baiting really well, and he's been getting off really nice ultimates. So at this point, don't play into the Yemoja. Send somebody over there, probably Cozyx and maybe Rapio or Spudio. Send 2 of those over there just to get this Yemoja out of the way, and then play through the other lanes. Because at this point, Dutsher really is making this game impossible. Dutsher and this Loki poke.
Mid lane Phoenix back online here for the Hex Mambo, and the Olympus Bolts trying to take advantage.
Sobek.
But I mean, a pincer maneuver here. These 2 get absolutely decimated by the Thoth ultimate. Kraken used just to slow down the Olympus Bolts, so the rest of the Hex Mambo can go hunting, and they're just picking off the Bolts one by one. Spudio likely to fall here as Duduin finds 1 in the backline, but Thoth is online, ladies and gentlemen. Only BeroTheBeast remains. I get the idea, Olympus Bolts. You take out that middle Phoenix, but the Hex Mambo 1 step ahead. I mean, Bero just trying to pad some stats a little bit. Hey, if you're going to lose the game, at least 1 Phoenix down for the enemy squad looks better in the scorebook. 4 members of the Hex Mambo run it down the middle lane. Left lane still online here for the Olympus Bolts. BeroTheBeast, I'm a monster. He's got it. We've seen crazier things happen. Sikkim off the mark. Here's I'm a monster. You got to find the reset here. It's got to be on Rapio. It's got to be on Dzoni. It's got to be on someone. Pick a target as the Titan is falling. And the Titan goes down. The Olympus Bolts lose game number 1. The Hex Mambo on top.
And there's some defense potential there. Bero, if he maybe holds his crush, holds his Sikkim just a little bit longer, and doesn't sit in that ult as long as he does, maybe we're talking about a different story. Fortunately, he opts to kind of hold that and find the perfect ultimate. And you know what they say. You look for the ultimate, the perfect ultimate too long, sometimes there's never going to be anything there. And, I mean, overall, we're talking about the Mambo were kind of dominating this game, but the sieging became a problem. On the opposite side, the Bolts were anti-sieging very well. And then they tried to look for the siege, and a massive, massive Thoth ult by Rapio kind of just ends their entire story.
More fight than I think people were expecting, though, from the 6-seeded Olympus Bolts. It's not like it was a slow chokeout there by the Hex Mambo. The Olympus Bolts with flashes of inspiration, but ultimately fall to the Hex Mambo. We've got a game number 2 coming your way in just a second. Stick around.
just when you thought that was the last flavor and the last shaker from SMITE and our partners at Advanced GG, well, think twice, because now we got another one. It's Cthulhu's Dream, the flavor, and you can also pick up the Cthulhu Shaker over at advanced.gg. And if you're wondering, well, what does Cthulhu's Dreams taste like? Well, apparently it's raspberry acai, and I've been told it's a very good flavor as well. So make sure you go over to advanced.gg, pick one up yourself, whether you want to pick up just a shaker, just the flavor, or you can pick them up as a bundle deal. If you pick them up individually or anything else on the website, you can use code SMITE and get 10% off. So thanks so much to Advanced GG for collaborating with us once more. Now to bring Cthulhu to their own arsenal. Game number 1 here for Hex Mambo and Olympus Bolts, though, Mifflin. This one was a very dominant, very powerful start for Hex Mambo, and then they kind of hit a bit of a wall for a moment. The sieges on the left side were not panning out super well for Hex Mambo. Fights were scattered. Their 3-2 split plan just was not working out. But in the end, all it takes is one misstep from the Olympus Bolts a little too far forward, and Hex Mambo were able to capitalize on it and win.
Hex Mambo, always a dominant team that'll punish you every single time for micro misplays, and that one there was not micro by any stretch of the imagination, average size misplay from the Olympus Bolts. Top to bottom, though, let's start at the very beginning, and it is a dominant game there for Hex Mambo. Namely, Dzoni on this Awilix setting the pace early on. Just absolutely decimates everyone he makes contact with. Puts his team in a very good position, transitioning towards an early Fire Giant 18 minutes in. They were rolling through neutral objectives, push that gold lead to around that 10 to 13,000 mark. But as you said, starts to approach that Phoenix, and all of a sudden, Loki, who's level 20, has got a fully upgraded Bluestone and is doing way too much damage. Or there's no Phantom Shell for Hex Mambo because they hadn't been concerned about defensives. They wanted more aggressive relics. And so Dutsher starts to find a little bit more value from his own ultimate. And the Olympus Bolts repel Hex Mambo once, twice, finally start to step up themselves. But unfortunately for them, it seems like that unofficial 6-man in the Phoenix probably necessary to their team fight, because Hex Mambo cleanly wiped from there, and the game looks simple. Rapio, for the most part, allowed a free cast in that backline in spite of a double assassin composition up against the Olympus Bolts was surprising to me. I thought he would have a much harder time on this Thoth, considering Loki and Rat have both got incredible dive potential. But the Rat in particular really struggled to put out that damage. And that's a trend across a lot of what we've seen from the Olympus Bolts, averaging around 14,000, 15,000. We'll remove Duduin, who is just an outlier thanks to that poke potential come late game. So I think if the Olympus Bolts want to right the ship, I'm looking at initiation. I'm seeing just about none of it, barring Yemoja here for them. So maybe something like a mage solo that has some form of CC. Or, and this is sacrilegious for me to say, J-Mac, a warrior.
How dare you bring up warriors?
It's on me. It's on me.
In this year of our Lord and Savior in 2023, you want to bring up warriors to me? No, we'll see.
They start fights.
We will see. I mean, we saw an adaptation towards the end of the previous set where we did see an Odin and a Xing Chen lane kind of pop up for themselves. So maybe we do see a couple of those warriors, you know, maybe find their home through. Julio just, to me, screams the traditional warrior player. When I think Julio, King Arthur, Tyr are like the two that immediately come to mind with him. So maybe it's been a while since we've seen some of those guys. Maybe we'd see if Julio wants to bring one of those out here. It is a 1-game up for Hex Mambo here against Olympus Bolts. See who will be the first of the teams to qualify up into Group C for this side of the bracket at the very least. And I got to give shouts to Rapio where they deserve. The transition from jungle into mid coming into this phase and with this team has been a fairly smooth transition for him. He's been looking really strong on these mid laners. The Thoth, he's been having great positioning. Even if he's being dove by a Rat and a Loki, still only dying, I would say, 4 times to a composition like that. Just tells the awareness that he has had on this map.
Well, J-Mac, you know why he had an easy transition, right? He went from the hardest role in the game to the easiest role in the game. You know, jungle, you got to maneuver the map, influence every single lane. You're fighting for your own farm. Your teammates and your enemies are stealing your farm. You don't have waves just walking at you. You got to get involved. You got to start the fight. You can't die too quick either. You know what mid laners do? Oh, yeah, this guy just crossed through my lane, guys. Careful on left. Oh, no, he's on right now. Can someone please come CC them at my enemy so I can light up my abilities? Of course Rapio is going to have a good time in mid, man.
I need help with my red buff, bro.
Yeah,
can
for
you
real.
show up? I need help with this green buff that I'm taking from the support. They're not even allowed to have their own buff. We have already sprung through so many of these bans and picks, though. As far as the picks are concerned, Hex Mambo take Raijin, Thoth, and Hachiman. So once again, the Thoth going into the hands of their mid laner Rapio. Olympus Bolts will go with the Anhur, Morgan Le Fay, and Vulcan, which has notably been making a big splash in this scene. We've seen him a little bit in the SPL as well, kind of towards the tail end of the phase and into Nord's playoffs. So now seeing him make his way over here for the EU SEC, maybe a bit of the Pretty Prime influence from the SOC. I mean, whenever Pretty Prime was playing at the top of the league in SPL, that was one of his go-to picks. Maybe that started to kind of trickle down to the rest of the leagues.
I'm going to give it to Gunter with that defense earlier today, probably leaving a little bit of an impression on everybody here. Look, Vulcan's got a whole lot of damage, has relatively decent self-peel. In a meta where there have been some cripples in play, things like Whirlpool, it's worth noting that Backfire no longer affected by cripples, so still pretty survivable. High CC output with a knock-up, great objective secure. I'm a Vulcan fan. He's also like one of 2 mages in the game that is both secure and burn, but you're thinking a lot over there.
Yeah, look at the Bolts draft. Who's their support?
What do you
mean? Is
mean?
this an Anhur support?
Dude, are you confused?
Yes, I am very confused.
That's crazy, man.
Can you enlighten me a little bit? Help my small brain figure this out a little bit?
Look, man, me and chat already know, so why would I tell you? You know, it's an if you know situation.
And I don't know, apparently, so I'll have to wait and see when the game kicks off to see exactly where these ones go through. Hex Mambo, very traditional style of comp. Dzoni back on the Awilix once more. He's got the backup with the Sobek once again to really try and help pilot him through there. And then really his only major capitalization on people that would have to jump away of any kind would be that Anhur. So maybe we see some pressure from Dzoni over towards the dual lane this time, as opposed to sitting around the mid and the solo lane trying to get some of that farm up there. So we'll have to see exactly where this Olympus Bolts draft even aligns out. Let's jump right into game number 2, and we'll throw it over to our casters.
Game number 2, Olympus Bolts trying to fight back into the dominant Hex Mambo. Mifflin said, if you know where the gods for the Olympus Bolts are going. And I don't know. Inbound, I saw a lot of magical damage, a lot of physical damage, and very little defense.
Yeah, I've got no idea either. Looking at it, we get the Anhur support.
J-Mac, he plays like he's like, oh, small brain, right? But he's like low-key one of the sharpest dudes in SMITE. If you ask J-Mac, fun fact, about a SMITE match from like 2015, like a quarterfinal regional match, he will know who won. He'll know the drafts. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, he knows these really weird things where you're like, why do you know that, J-Mac? And he's just like, I just do. He just knows stuff like that.
So, I mean, it's got to be addressed. Olympus Bolts with an odd composition, a little bit of a kooky one. Is this throw caution to the wind and see if the Hex Mambo can adjust to our goofy play style, or is there actually a thought process behind this?
But looking at the duo lane, this is what you expect to see when you have these 2 gods. You have the double ranged matchup in duo. And Anhur with a lot of threat. Soul has a lot of threat. I would expect a lot of fighting over in duo. I would not be surprised if first blood happens over there either side. Or I would expect either OtherTheAnother or Dzoni rotating over there and also making a play, because this is kind of the most important role. And Anhur who gets ahead is very strong. And Anhur who falls behind is very weak.
Does that rule carry over as Duduin is getting walked down here from Julio's Bananas, who's immediately going back in on the Morgan Le Fay? Does that rule still hold in support, where your CC is just your CC and damage is a little bit less of a concern, as BeroTheBeast getting targeted out here by Dzoni? Now, the only really phenomenal thing about the Olympus Bolts draft is that you have very few leaps to worry about. But Dzoni going right into the Thanatos pre-2 minutes. Cozyx says, thank you. I'll grab first blood for the squad. And so far, the Olympus Bolts all gas, no break draft. It just ain't working out.
Yeah, and to answer your question on this Anhur, I think it reigns even more true. And Dzoni's still going to get involved ganking in duo lane.
I mean, why not? Load, falling low, able to get, nope. Not able to get into the zap rate. I eat my words, falls for a second blood here. And inbound, it's just over 2 minutes, but we might be witnessing the slippery slope downfall of the Olympus Bolts in real time.
Yeah, and especially where those 2 deaths happened, on this Soul who needs to dominate the lane, on this Thanatos who wants to be ahead in the jungle. And I talked about the Anhur, but it reigns true in the jungle and it reigns true in ADC for both of these gods. You want to get ahead if you're in this Bolts draft. This is not a comp that's going to scale very well, so you need to be able to get this early lead. So far, no real lead anywhere, but they're looking to invade this blue.
Duduin and OtherTheAnother. Teaming up here, it's Julio and Dzoni trying to fight back into him. Julio falls low. That's an early mage against the Thanatos, but guess what? Dzoni's on Awilix, who can do plenty of damage to
Julio's 5.
3 minutes. Dude, yeah, unfortunate. Julio
Yeah.
takes over to has that ultimate online as well. And I mean, with this, I mean, the composition for the Olympus Bolts here being full damage, are you still expecting that breastplate and that tankier build to come out from Julio, or do you maybe make the adjustment as the solo laner?
I would still expect mostly the same build. I wouldn't be too surprised if that last item ends up being another damage item, so he ends up going just the 2 defense items, because this damage will be a lot more relevant against a comp that really will not have that many tanks. So I do expect mostly the same build, maybe just a little bit more damage towards the end.
Cozyx? Cozy Cozyx, nonetheless. Not looking to grab a pluck, was plucking the heck out of the Olympus Bolts in game number 1, being a little bit more cautious here in game number 2. As pretty much the entirety of the Olympus Bolts are starting to head the way towards the left lane. Shield buff respawns. Dutsher going in, has the blink online, because why not? Thanatos in the air, hovering. Death comes down on the buff. It's going to be secured for the Olympus Bolts. That got me way too high. BeroTheBeast almost falling to Rapio. Shots on the mark here. One more.
Nice.
To land. Rapio with a solo kill onto BeroTheBeast. Flexing a little bit here.
No
but
dash.
is now completely out of mana. Might have just enough. Oh.
No.
Tough there as Cozyx is falling low. Dutsher with the up down onto the Sobek. Not much support as load falls though, and Hex Mambo going right back in. This feels more like an in-house matchup than one fighting for a spot at Worlds, as Dzoni headed over here to the left lane. Feather step over the top, a little bit off the mark. Some of those auto attacks not connecting from Spudio, but Dzoni has the ultimate online, and he yoinks back in on her for the 6th kill being tallied for Hex Mambo, and we're not even at 5 minutes yet.
No, it doesn't even feel like an in-house. It feels like a disaster at this point. 6 kills for the Mambo, and it is not... There's no outlook here for the Bolts until it gets super late, and even at that point, their comp isn't going to be scaling nearly as hard as this Mambo comp. And we saw that late-game potential that Rapio had on this Thoth. And, I mean, that's not even late-game potential. That's just current potential and current damage. But that one-shot potential Thoth has late-game, it's still just as relevant this game, and if you've fallen behind, it just comes online even faster.
Dutsher has already left the duo lane and is now hovering around solo as, I mean, this support on her, I have rarely said that in my life. He's getting walked down here by the Hex Mambo, able to leap over the wall successfully. No way this dude gets away. Rapio on the mark with the final judgment. Make it 7 here for Hex Mambo as Rapio strutting his stuff on this Thoth. Thanatos is in the air, not exactly sure what you're going to do with that, buddy. Electing not to come down. It actually does come down and immediately pays for it for the 3rd death from a Thanatos that just now gets the full Transcendence locked in there. That's going to take a while to stack for OtherTheAnother. And by the time it's all the way stacked up, might even not be worth it as BeroTheBeast falling low and is certain to die. Staring death in the face here. Nice CC, nice damage padding here from the mid laner. Rapio picks up a 4th.
9 kills so far. And it is not looking great for the Bolts. This is we are fighting everything, and if we win half of them, we're in a good spot. So far, they have won nothing.
As Dutsher really needs to take out that wave in the mid lane, uses the Desert Fury to do so. I would ask you what the Olympus Bolts need to do to get back into this game, but it almost feels like they're content to let this one just slip away as Dutsher, level 5 to the level 7 in the Sobek. He got a level 2 lead completely in the duo lane. He got a level lead in the mid lane as well. Spot of hope, though, despite dying 3 times. OtherTheAnother, just about even here with Dzoni, who takes over to 8.
Yeah, spot of hope, and with only being down a level, even though he's 0-3. You're not wrong,
I'm trying
though.
to be positive, dude.
You're not wrong.
I'm trying to keep an optimistic outlook.
He's even right now. Same level with Dzoni. He's got that trans. He just needs to get a few stacks online. Opposite side, no trans for Dzoni, so that spike will happen sooner enough. And maybe there's some potential there. And the Bolts, honestly, they have to keep taking fights, and hopefully they start to win some of them. That is the outlook that I see.
Spudio getting dove here, no mana. Hovering, Death connects, but the beads from the ADC get him out of trouble. Still low, though. Hops on the horsey. Dutsher yoinks back in one way and then immediately pulled out of the air by the gravity surge.
Got him.
OtherTheAnother finds one. We've got a kill on the board for the Olympus Bolts as Thanatos finds one in the duo lane. Immediately dies for it. Like, yeah. But hey, A kill is a kill is a kill. Here for the Olympus Bolts, trying to staunch the bleeding to the tune of about a 2,500 gold lead. A 1v1 not going the way of Duduin. Over here in the solo lane, throwing out some barrels, is Julio on this Raijin. Rapio's joined the fray as well. Duduin immediately responds, but might be baiting them as BeroTheBeast comes in. Off the mark there
Dutsher?
with a couple of missiles. Dutsher is here, though. Dutsher with a gauntlet of thieves with 6 stacks to Desert Fury. The blink on her on the board with an aggressive play. Cozyx making the rotation as well. And Duduin's just getting a walk down here on the right-hand side as Johnny's here to put the finishing touches on the solo laner.
Only a 1,500 gold lead for the Mambo at this point. The XP might be a little bit more drastic, but it could be worse at this point, and it's going to get a little bit worse. Another kill for the Mambo.
Thanatos, no ultimate, which means no CC immunity, which means you're not living. As the 5th death for the God of Death puts him behind 2 levels to Johnny, who's, by the way, 6-0-6 before the 10-minute mark. I mean, Rapio going nuts, 4-1. Spudio, sickle mode, 3-1. Make it 7 for Johnny, finding BeroTheBeast on the left-hand side here. Farm going the way of the Hex Mambo. Kills going the way of the Hex Mambo. The draft going the way of the Hex Mambo. What is going the way of the Olympus Bolts? Let's find something. Actives? Maybe? Nope. That doesn't... well, 4-3. Okay. More ultimates online. Nope. Tied. I'm struggling inbound. I'm grasping at straws.
And I'd be doing the same thing if I'm trying to find something that the Bolts have going, because at this point it's not even solo lane that you have that small outlook of being even, because Duduin got taken down by Johnny. And we're looking at 3,000 gold, and about a minute ago we saw the XP lead was 4,000. At this point I can assume it's probably grown another 500. It's 6,000 XP instead of 4,000 from a minute ago, so it has even grown exponentially.
Johnny topping out the player damage charts. No surprise there, as OtherTheAnother immediately has to head to the air. Any kind of initiation here from the Hex Mambo has to be responded to swiftly and very defensively. Johnny blinking right into the meatball. Out of the Vulcan could have been a sick play. Wasn't, though, as here comes Rapio going right into the face of the Olympus Bolts. Downtown, BeroTheBeast taking out one. Dutsher is falling low, able to leap away successfully, though. Johnny's in a weird spot here. Could go back in or could escape the load. Is in a worse one, going down to the jungler for the Hex Mambo. BeroTheBeast, the completely immobile Vulcan, is going to pay for stepping forward there. You got 2 more. Blood on the hands of Johnny as Gold Fury going to be started up here by the Hex Mambo, and no one from the Olympus Bolts to answer.
And a little bit of an outlook here for the Bolts. Instead of them getting killed again, it'll be the Gold Fury getting killed this time. So small outlook there. Not another death for them. Just the Gold Fury dying.
Yeah, no big deal, right? Major objective on the map, going the way of your enemy. Like, that's fine. As Dutsher once again has completely abandoned the left-hand side and is helping out Duduin on the solo lane. As, oh my God, OtherTheAnother gets 1-2-3'd by Rapio and all of a sudden is at 1/4 HP. I mean, you got a book of Thoth online, Spear of Deso. You got a 3rd item being looked at here by Rapio. The Thoth is just always relevant, right? You have artillery strikes. You've got long range. You buff the autos. I mean, not enough can be said. Do it. Turn around and hit it. There it is, BeroTheBeast. That's another, 900 damage. Padding some stats is Rapio, almost 100-0ing BeroTheBeast, who chucks out the ultimate, because why not? I'm surprised Johnny is not hovering around the Phoenix line of the Olympus Bolts and just killing on respawn. OtherTheAnother going down to a single rotation of abilities there out of Johnny. And Dutsher trying to make something happen here in the middle lane.
And Johnny wrapping around on Dutsher. Dive in the tower.
I'm just going to let this one play out. You know how like some sports announcers, they just let the crowd fill the void? You know, we don't have a crowd, but I want everyone to sit in this for just a second as BeroTheBeast trying to take out Cozyx. Not able to do so. That's already a tanky croc. Rapio doesn't even, maybe what, like 300 HP is like, I'm fine. Lode and Bero, they're not going to kill me. They can't kill me. Cozyx, same thing goes there. As that's exactly why Lode falls to just under half HP.
No.
It is a 20-3. Woo, a little bit off the mark there from Rapio. Could have been a sick highlight play as Cozyx refuses to go back to base. Ruh-roh, Rapio may be in a tough spot here. Hovering death. Maybe a little bit out of range, though. OtherTheAnother elects not to slam down on the head of a member of Hex Mambo. And we've got a pretty significant gold lead, kill lead, and pretty much everything lead here as OtherTheAnother falls to the mid laner in this game number 2.
And actually, it's the Bolts diving this tier 1, getting that tower. Dzoni looking for the ult. Very low here, maybe an opportunity for the Bolts.
Oh, they want Cozyx so bad. Julio takes out BeroTheBeast. Lode finds Rapio. Raid boss down. Dzoni returns it right back around, though. That's an immortal streak for Dzoni. 11-0. Almost 5 digits of XP lead. You got a nutty gold lead working for you as well. The entirety of the enemy jungle goes the way of the Hex Mambo. Gold Fury's down and Pyromancer's down. Otherwise, you could expect that the Hex Mambo would be slowly choking out the map here and taking absolutely everything. But look at Dutsher. Playing hero here on the left-hand side, trying to snag a tower, 1v1. It's a support versus an ADC. There's a world where the support might come out on top, although 2 items in, and one of them is Gauntlet of Thebes, so it's not feeling particularly magical here for Dutsher. Not able to grab a tier 1 on the left-hand side. OtherTheAnother has no damage online, practically. A level 11 Thanatos that's pretty far behind, doesn't even have a stacked trans, walking into the pretty tanky Julio at this point. Oh no, this might be bad. OtherTheAnother head into the air. CC immediately comes right back down. He's got the guts. And OtherTheAnother likely to pay for it. Flick off the mark there, but one auto attack from the Crocodile takes out the Thanatos. Lode able to get into the sap rate. Spudio, long range auto attacks just expire before the ADC for the Olympus Bolts finds the grayscale. Now you talk.
I got nothing to say on this. This is a walloping. The Mambo are taking every fight they see and they're winning them, and then Bolts are spawning, coming back, losing another fight, spawning, and then maybe getting 1 kill, and then losing some more.
That is some ESPY award-winning analysis there from Inbound. I mean, there's I joke about it, but there's nothing more to say. It's 26-4. It's 15 minutes. The Hex Mambo are basically playing like creative mode at this point, having fun around the map. The Olympus Bolts are doing the same thing here. And you know what? When you're behind, sometimes you have to roll the dice. Sometimes you have to gamble with your lives, make a big-time play, make something happen. OtherTheAnother tries to step up and immediately gets put down for it. Cozyx and Rapio leading the charge here. Julio right behind him with some bananas. Holy smokes, Lode gets ripped through the final judgment. Aegis down as well. The barrels on the mark. Dzoni in the back line. It's just a question of how many kills can Dzoni get before the Olympus Bolts are just out of members for this Awilix to kill. It's going to be 2. Another double. That's 14 for who many consider the best jungler currently in the game. Maybe one of the best of all time. As BeroTheBeast is being looked at here by the Awilix. He says it's a fake out. It's going to be a tower. As Dutsher and this might actually be curtains for Dzoni here, as OtherTheAnother making the rotation as well. You know where that hovering death's coming down. Come on, come on, come on, play into it. You got this. In the back line, doesn't connect with anyone and is now just dead. I mean, if you're going to throw, you might as well kill someone in the meantime. Cozyx low, but Fire Giant falls at 16 minutes here to the #1 seed out of Europe, Hex Mambo.
And the Bolts pulled Fire Giant, OtherTheAnother pulls it and gets knocked up literally immediately and then just dies almost instantly after. It was not a clean pull, it was not a good pull, and the Mambo punished him for it. The Mambo get Fire Giant 30-4. Dzoni is 14-0, 11 assists, the better part of 25 of the 30 kills. On the opposite side, hey, 1 kill for almost everyone. All we need is Duduin to get 1, and we got 1 across the board.
Dude, I love how you're trying to milk analysis from that Fire Giant fight.
Dude, it was so bad.
Up, you know, and it's a knock-up that immediately turns it back around. As Lode is not. I mean, what is that? Auto feather step is gonna be the death of the soul there. 1-7, but somehow is not the most deaths on the team. That's gonna belong to OtherTheAnother, taking home that plaque there, as it's Bero and Dutsher trying to defend this tier 2 tower.
Wow.
Might be a little foolhardy as Rapio walks around the corner, hits the 4 button, finds 1. Guess what? Another double kill for Dzoni and 1 for Rapio. Might as well put some more accolades on that final victory screen for the jungler and the mid laner. 16-0. Now the question is Dzoni going to get the 20-1 achievement? Or is he going to try to stay unkilled in this game as Duduin falls to Cozyx. Dzoni once again looking for that sacred 20 mark here in kills. But in fact, it's Spudio going to take out Lode, stripping that away. A kill steal from Dzoni, kind of rude there from the ADC for the Hex Mambo. Middle lane Phoenix being the target. Left lane Phoenix already down here pre-20 minutes. Giant ultimate and just completely face tanked by the Hex Mambo. So far ahead, you don't even have to respect the Vulcan ultimate. You got a spree for Rapio. Dutsher, good night, son. Dzoni finds yet another one. 17-0-14. What a shame that Dzoni can't put the finishing touches on a 20-kill game. Got to cap it at 17, maybe 18. Cozyx strips yet another one away. As Hex Mambo, some clear discord here amongst the team as they're not handing the kills to Dzoni. And an 18-minute slaughter means Hex Mambo takes this game set morality, confidence, pretty much takes everything from the Olympus Bolts.
Yeah, real shame Dzoni didn't hit his 20-kill threshold that he was looking for. He's not going to walk home with that achievement, but he will walk home with the set win. And, I mean, which one would you rather have? Set win, 20 kills? I mean, it's up in the air. But, I mean, overall, game 2, not that close. Set 1 wasn't very close either. A little bit of fight back from the Bolts. No Bolts in this game. This was basically just 5 Mambo players loading in.
I have nothing more to add. You did your absolute best trying to squeeze some analysis out of that game number 2. So since we're all done here, I've been Dimes, that's inbound. Let's hand it back to the desk to try to make something of that game 2.
I don't know how much more there really is to add by this point, Mifflin. 40-4, the final kill count. 18 minutes and 45 seconds, I believe, the final timer. And nearly 20 kills for Dzoni going undying. This was just... Dzoni and the Hex Mambo wanted to have a field day, and boy, did they have one.
Look, it's not about whether or not you got knocked down. It's about whether or not you can get back up. And they just kept getting back up. Look, if you're at the kill a minute rule, right, that feels pretty bad. You're going to show up in an Incon YouTube video, okay? It's gonna, I got to kill every single minute, all caps, his face like the whole time, right? That's fine. There was 2 kills a minute at certain points this game, and perhaps exceeding that as well. And you know what the Olympus Bolts did?
Kept getting back
They
up.
kept getting back up. Me, I'd fold up like a lawn chair into the fetal position. You'd have to get a pry bar to pull me out of it, okay? I'd be there in a puddle of my own tears, violently sobbing, racked by my sobs. These guys kept getting back up, and bless their hearts, they let the Titan die a natural death. They didn't surrender. They did not inflict a heart attack upon their own Titan. Instead, they just kept it rocking. And you know what? For that reason alone, they made a fan out of me.
So respect to the Olympus Bolts for hanging in for as long as they did. Hex Mambo, though, the easiest way to put it is they just had a dominant performance through and through. There was not much the Olympus Bolts could do to slow down this pace. For me personally, I feel that my breaking point would have been that duo lane gank where they sent 3 to try and kill Spudio. All 3 of them eventually died, but they do kill Spudio. There was the silver lining there that for a moment we thought, okay, this is where we're going to come back. This is where we're going to slow them down.
You thought that?
In fact, I think they slammed on the gas pedal and said, oh, you killed our duo lane? No, we're not going to let that one slide. And Hex Mambo certainly did not let that happen. As you can see here, just Spudio sitting in the jungle just waiting for a clothesline kill at this point. Gets one, then dashes right in to help for a second one. So he gets 17 kills for Dzoni. I think it was 10 for Rapio over here as well. So 27 of the 40 just from the mid 2.
So let me bounce some ideas off you for BEM names. Do we want to go Olympus Bolts or
That's
Olympus Bots?
I think Dolts is the classic.
Switch
one.
a letter, don't take one away?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the classic because they got the L. You can't take the L away from them.
Oh, that might be... J-Mac, how many years you been here, man?
This is a little over 2 years now.
Yeah, mark the date. December 8th, 2023. That was your best work. 3:57 p.m. You peaked.
It's all downhill from here. I'm turning 30 next week. It is a downhill spiral.
Oh, my God. That's dark. Happy early.
Oh, thank you. Anyways, Hex Mambo, big win for them now. They get to move on into the Group C bracket for themselves, and they still are awaiting one more inside of their group. Same with the opposite side for Group B. Still need one more to qualify, and we can take a look at those two brackets right now just to see who is still up for fighting on both ends, as mentioned here, at least for Hex Mambo. They'll have already qualified their way up into Group C. Yomi Tanuki and the Olympus Bolts will get their rematch that we will see. Olympus Bolts from earlier on found a 2-1 over the Yomi Tanuki, and then Yomi Tanuki gets the 2 over Yodi Gang to now join the Olympus Bolts for a rematch, see who will be the last of this group, qualify up into Group C, out of the Group A side of the bracket at the very least. And then over for Group B, we still have, again, 2 more teams trying to fight up to see, at least for who they want to kind of fight up a little bit and see who they're going to be joining a little bit later. We're going to take a look at that here very shortly for these two squads. But, I mean, Hex Mambo, this has been a team that we have looked at. This has been the clear-cut team for pretty much just every season, every split that we have seen these guys. It has been who is going to beat Hex Mambo, and now we have, at least over on the opposite side of the Group B, Niflheim Wargs made their qualification up, and now it's between the Solar Scarabs and the Tartarus Titans to see who is going to join up there and into the ranks of Group C.
You know, I'm thinking to myself, because for certain the bottom-seeded SPL teams are watching today. They're keeping their eyes on Hex Mambo. They know they're going to have to compete against them if they want to go to Worlds. And I'm thinking, did they glean any useful information from that set?
Don't give him a wheelish.
Yeah, Johnny's gotten a wheelish. I think that's big.
We got that.
And that's all they got, is Johnny has an Awilish. And frankly, I knew that. Everyone knew that.
Here's the thing is the SPL teams have already been fighting against the Awilish. If you play against the Leviathans, Adaptive's been breaking that out. So it's not like they have to practice for anything new. It's just, okay, well, we have another Awilish player we're going to have to deal with later.
I guess there was like a Sobek pick. That's slightly new, I suppose.
Good. Well, we'll have to see at least how the rest of our weekend pans out, because that's all that we have for you guys today. So thank you very much for tuning in to day 2 of the EU qualifiers. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. EST for day number 3 on behalf of myself, Myth, and all the other cast and everyone behind the scenes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.